Sunday, May 28th, Memorial Day weekend. It seems that the sun's trying to come out. We haven't had any rain today. Had a lot of rain. It should be beautiful the rest of the week. And hopefully we'll start enjoying some of this warm weather. Let's talk about the end of the Trump foreign policy trip. As much as I liked what he did in the Middle East, I absolutely dislike what he did in Europe. And I've been going back and forth. A lot of our friends here, getting a lot of friend messages. We've been going back and forth on this, and let me explain why. And to me, it's just so obvious. I have a lot of people saying to me, Mark, what are you talking about? Europe. They don't pay their bills, or they're focused on climate change. They have all these people, all these refugees who come running around. It's their problem. And I sit back and go, wait a second. It seems to me that President Trump likes Russia more than he likes Europe. Let's look what's going on here. Europe is on the front lines with Russia. We're not. Eastern Europe is right on the front lines with Russia. We're not. Look what happened with Ukraine when the Russians came in and took over Crimea. They are almost protecting us that way because the Russians aren't on our borders. The Russians are on their borders. So our friends who are on the borders of our at least adversary, bad adversary, who has been trying to get involved in our elections, we have to help those people and stick with those people. They're going to raise their 2% payment. I'm convinced they'll all pay it. But they're on the front lines. We're not on the front lines. Number two, they share our ideals. They believe in freedom. They believe in people's rights. They believe in being able to live and enjoy your life. They're not like us in a lot of ways. I mean, they don't agree with us in a lot of ways, but in the old liberal Western European style, we're there. We're all together with this. Russia isn't. Number three, so what there is behind climate change? Climate is changing. You can't get away from it. So whether or not they want to do it and want to keep back in the climate control bill, what does that have to do with us? If we decide not to, which I don't agree with, but if we decide not to, it still doesn't mean they're not our great friends. And then about the issue about them letting refugees in with no borders, that's our fault. That's as much our fault as anybody's because we did not get involved in Syria. We didn't have to do it with military troops. We should have sent in aid. We should have backed the rebels because what happened was when Hillary Clinton wanted to do that and President Obama refused, but we could have maybe held the refugees off, but by allowing that civil war in Syria to get worse and worse and worse, of course in Iraq it was still getting pretty bad, it was getting worse when he withdrew all of our troops, those refugees, those people had to go somewhere. They went into Europe. They couldn't come to America. You can't easily swim across the Atlantic. So they went up there and the Europeans took those refugees in. We didn't. They did because of the vacuum that we created by pulling out because of the absolutely horrible foreign policy of President Obama and President Bush before him. 16 years of horrible policy that led to that. So quit blaming the Europeans. It's about time Trump will sit there and get on get in the newspapers, yucking it up with the Russian foreign minister and the Russian ambassador. Look at them. He would rather be friends with Russia than with our friends in Europe. I consider this a complete turnoff. Wrong. If you can't stick with your friends, you can disagree with them. But if you can't stick with your friends, then you're not a friend. We agree with what's going on in the Middle East, but if you're going to back the Saudis, who really finance Wahhabism, which led to the destruction of the Twin Towers on 9/11 and has led to Islamic radicalism, if we can back them, which I think we should do because they're trying to change, how can we not stick with our friends? What am I missing? President Trump, I'm sorry. You have failed this second part of the trip. Machiavellian doesn't work. You know what? I bet you if Marine Le Pen won in France, he would have been over there hugging her and kissing her. Very disappointing. Peace.